The alarm system screamed through every corridor of the Meridian. Captain Jake Morrison rushed to the bridge, his boots pounding against the metal floor. His crew was already at their stations, staring at the main screen with wide eyes. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked, sliding into his command chair. "Alien vessel, sir," replied Lieutenant Amy Carter, her fingers dancing across her console. "It's badly damaged. Life signs are faint, but they're there." Jake studied the wreckage floating in the darkness of space. The ship was unlike anything in their database. Its hull was covered in strange markings, and parts of it were still burning despite the vacuum of space. Whatever had attacked this vessel had meant to destroy it completely. "Any response to our hails?" Jake asked. "Negative, sir, but I'm picking up a distress pattern. It's weak, but it's definitely a call for help." Jake made his decision quickly. "Bring them aboard. Medical team to the docking bay. Security full alert. We don't know what we're dealing with here." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the docking bay, watching his team cut through the airlock of the alien ship. Smoke poured out when the seal broke. The medical team rushed forward with stretchers and equipment. "Oh my God!" someone whispered. The alien was massive, even lying down. His body was covered in dark fur with silver streaks. His face was somewhere between a wolf and a lion, with intelligent eyes that blazed with pain and determination. Blood stained his armor, which looked like it had been through a war. Next to him, huddled together and shaking, were 3 small creatures. Cubs. They couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old in human terms. "Get him to medical now!" Amy shouted. But the alien raised one clawed hand. "No," he said in perfect English, though his voice was rough with pain. "No time. Listen, we're listening. What happened to you?" "My name is Thexal, commander of the 3rd Vakrian Fleet." He coughed, and more blood appeared on his lips. "The crash came. They destroyed everything. My ship, my crew, my world. The Vakrians?" Jake had heard of them. Everyone had. They were legendary warriors, proud and fierce. They never asked for help from anyone, especially not from humans. The galaxy considered humans to be soft, too emotional, too weak. "My cubs," Thexal continued, his eyes moving to the 3 small aliens huddled nearby. "They are all I have left. My mate is dead. My clan is scattered. The Kresh will not stop hunting them." Amy moved closer, her medical scanner in hand. "Sir, his injuries are severe. Multiple organ failure. We need to operate now if we're going to save him." Thexal shook his head. "Cannot be saved. I know this. But my cubs can live." His eyes locked onto Amy's face. You have kindness in your eyes. I have watched humans. I have studied you. You are not what others say." "What do others say?" Amy asked softly. "That you are weak, that you care too much, that you cannot fight." Thexal managed a smile that showed too many sharp teeth. "They are fools. Caring is not weakness. Working together is not weakness. You survive because you adapt. You win because you think." Jake exchanged glances with Amy. "What are you asking us to do?" "Take my cubs, raise them, protect them until they are strong." Thexal's breathing was getting worse. "I know this is much to ask. Vakrians never give their young to outsiders. But I have no choice. The Kresh will hunt them across the galaxy. They need to disappear. They need to learn to survive in new ways." "We're not equipped to raise alien children," Jake protested. "We don't know your culture, your needs, your traditions." "Good," Thexal said firmly. "Vakrian traditions are killing us. Our pride keeps us from accepting help. Our honor codes make us predictable. Our focus on individual combat makes us vulnerable." He coughed again, harder this time. "My cubs will learn human ways. They will become something new, something stronger." Amy knelt beside the cubs. They pressed against each other, their eyes huge with fear. The oldest, a female, bared her tiny fangs at Amy in warning. The middle one, another female, tried to look brave, but was clearly terrified. The smallest, a male, was crying softly. "What are their names?" Amy asked. "Vera, Kale, and Rin," Thexal whispered. "Vera is the eldest. She is stubborn and proud. Kale is clever and curious. Rin is gentle, like his mother was." His eyes filled with pain that wasn't physical. "Please. I know you do not know me. I know this is not your problem. But I am begging you." A Vakrian commander begging. These were the warriors who had conquered half the known galaxy through sheer force and determination. They never showed weakness. They never asked for help. Amy looked at Jake. He saw the determination in her eyes and knew what she was going to say. "We'll do it," she said. "We'll take care of them." "There is a ritual," Thexal said urgently. "A blood oath. It will make you their guardian in the eyes of my people. If any Vakrian finds them, they must respect your claim." He extended his clawed hand. "Are you willing?" Amy didn't hesitate. She placed her hand in his. Thexal's claws pierced her palm gently, mixing their blood. He spoke in his own language, words that sounded like thunder and poetry combined. When he finished, something changed in the air. Jake couldn't explain it, but he felt it. A bond had formed. "It is done," Thexal said, his voice fading. "Amy Carter, you are now clan mother to my cubs. Protect them. Teach them. Help them grow strong." His eyes moved to Jake. "Captain Morrison, I ask you to support this decision. I know it will cause problems for you." "That's putting it mildly," Jake said, but he nodded. "But we'll make it work. You have my word." Thexal smiled again. "Good. Tell my cubs something for me. Tell them their father's last act was not revenge or fighting. It was trust. Trust in a species we were taught to look down on." He looked at his children one last time. "Tell them to make me proud by becoming better than I was." Then he closed his eyes and stopped breathing. The medical team tried to revive him, but Amy stopped them. "He's gone. Let him rest." The three cubs began to wail, a sound that broke hearts across the docking bay. Amy moved to them slowly, carefully. Vera snapped at her, but Amy didn't pull back. She just sat down near them and waited. "I know you're scared," Amy said softly. "I know everything has changed, but you're safe now. I promise you're safe." Jake watched as the cubs slowly, hesitantly, moved closer to Amy. Rin was the first to touch her, his small paw reaching out to her injured hand. Then Kale. Finally, even proud Vera allowed Amy to put an arm around her. Jake activated his communicator. "Gridge, set course for New Haven Colony. We're going home, and we're bringing some special passengers with us." He looked at the small family forming in front of him, and wondered what he had just agreed to. Taking in 3 alien children whose species was known for being dangerous warriors. Children who would grow up learning human ways while carrying the legacy of their father's people. Jake had no idea that this decision would change not just their lives, but the fate of the entire galaxy. He didn't know that these 3 scared cubs would one day lead an army unlike anything the universe had ever seen. He just knew that it was the right thing to do. And sometimes, that was enough. 5 years had changed everything. Amy stood on the porch of her home on New Haven, watching the 3 Vakrian teenagers practice combat drills in the yard. They were no longer the terrified cubs who had clung to her in the docking bay. They were taller than most adult humans now, their bodies packed with muscle and covered in the distinctive fur of their people. But something about them was different from other Vakrians. "Vera, you're telegraphing your moves again," called Ben Hayes from his workshop. Amy's partner had become an unexpected father figure to the cubs. An engineer by trade, he had taught them that sometimes thinking was more important than fighting. Vera growled in frustration but adjusted her stance. She was the most conflicted of the 3. At 16, she remembered her father clearly, and struggled daily with what it meant to be Vakrian while living among humans. "Better," Ben said, walking over with a tablet in his hand. Now, what would you do if your opponent had superior strength and reach? Attack anyway, Vera said automatically. A true Vakrian never retreats. And a true Vakrian ends up dead, Kale interjected, not looking up from the weapon she was modifying. At 15, Kale had fallen in love with human engineering. She could take apart and rebuild almost any piece of technology. Dad taught us that winning matters more than looking brave. Don't call him Dad, Vera snapped. He's not our father. Our father died on that ship. Amy felt the familiar ache in her chest. They had this argument at least once a week. Your father asked us to raise you, she said gently. Ben and I are not trying to replace him. We're trying to honor his wishes. Vera's ears flattened against her skull, a sign of distress in Vakrian body language. By making us weak? By teaching us to run and hide instead of fight? By teaching you to survive, Ben replied calmly. He had dealt with Vera's outbursts many times before. Your father was one of the greatest warriors in the Vakrian fleet, and he died because he fought the way everyone expected him to fight. He wanted better for you. Rin, the youngest at 14, looked up from the human history book he was reading. Father told Amy that Vakrian traditions were killing them. I found the records of his last words. I've read them many times. You weren't even conscious when he died, Vera said bitterly. You don't remember him like I do. No, Rin agreed, but I remember what he wanted. He wanted us to learn. He wanted us to become something new. The conversation was interrupted by alarms blaring across the colony. Amy's communicator crackled to life. All militia members report to stations. We have incoming crash vessels. This is not a drill. Amy's blood went cold. The Kresh, the same species that had destroyed the Cubs' home world. They had been expanding their territory for years, crushing resistance wherever they found it. New Haven was supposed to be too remote, too unimportant to attract their attention. Ben, get the Cubs to the shelter, Amy ordered, already running for her gear. No, Vera said firmly. We fight. Your children, Amy protested. We're Vakrian, Vera replied, and we've trained for this our entire lives. She looked at her siblings. Both Vakrian combat and human tactics. We can help. Amy wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in all three faces. These weren't the scared Cubs from 5 years ago. They were warriors, even if they were young ones. Stay together, Amy finally said. Watch each other's backs. If things go wrong, you run. Understood? All three Cubs nodded. The Kresh attacked with brutal efficiency. Their ships bombarded the colony's shields, while drop pods rained down on the outskirts of town. The Kresh were insectoid creatures, each one standing 8 feet tall with razor-sharp limbs and acid-spitting capabilities. They were terrifying to face in combat. Amy found herself fighting alongside the Cubs in the eastern sector. The human militia was made up of farmers, teachers, and engineers who had basic combat training. They fought with determination, but were clearly outmatched by the Kresh warriors. Fall back to the barricades, Amy shouted, as a wave of Kresh charged their position. No, Vera said. She had a wild look in her eyes, something ancient and fierce. Kale, Rin, Formation 7. The three Cubs moved with perfect coordination. Vera charged forward, drawing the Kresh attention. She fought like a traditional Vakrian warrior, all fury and strength. The Kresh focused on her, seeing her as the primary threat. That was their mistake. Kale moved to the flank, using the modified rifle Ben had helped her build. Instead of fighting close combat, she took precise shots at the Kresh weak points, areas she had studied from captured intelligence reports. Every shot counted. Every shot dropped a target. Rin did something no Vakrian warrior had ever done before. He organized the human militia. You three, covering fire on my mark. You two, flank left when Vera draws them in. Medic, stay behind the barrier and be ready. The humans responded to his commands. They trusted him because he had grown up with them, played with their children, studied in their schools. He was one of them, even if he didn't look like them. The battle was chaotic and brutal. Amy fought back-to-back with Vera, amazed at how the young Vakrian combined her species' natural ferocity with human tactical thinking. Vera would charge, then retreat to cover. She would sacrifice glory for effectiveness. "Behind you!" Kale shouted. Amy spun and fired, dropping a creche that had gotten too close. "Thanks." "That's what teams do," Kale replied, reloading smoothly. "They watch out for each other." The tide of battle turned when Rin coordinated a pincer movement that trapped a large group of creche between two militia squads and the three cubs. The creche, expecting individual combat or disorganized resistance, were unprepared for coordinated tactics. When the creche finally retreated to their ships, New Haven had held. Barely, but they had held. Amy found the three cubs sitting together, exhausted and covered in scratches and burns. They were grooming each other, a Vakrian bonding behavior, but they were discussing the battle in pure tactical terms. "We exposed our flank twice," Vera was saying. "If they had better intelligence, they could have exploited it." "The barricades need to be reinforced," Kale added, "and we need better fields of fire. I can design something." "The militia needs more training," Rin said quietly. "They're brave, but they don't know how to fight as a unit. I could teach them." Amy sat down near them. "You three were amazing today. Your father would be proud." Vera looked up, and for the first time in years, she didn't argue. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," Amy said. "You fought with courage and intelligence. You protected your home and your people. That's what being a warrior really means." "Our home," Vera repeated slowly, looking around at the damaged but standing colony. "This is our home, isn't it? Not just a place we're staying until we go back to Vakrian space." "That's up to you," Ben said, joining them. He had a bandage on his arm, but was otherwise fine. "You can be Vakrian. You can be human. Or you can be both." "Both," Rin said immediately. "I want to be both." Kale nodded. "Me too. We're stronger this way." Vera was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and looked at the stars where the creche ships had fled. "Father said the creche destroyed the Vakrian worlds because we were predictable, because we couldn't adapt." She turned to her siblings. "We're not predictable anymore. We're something the galaxy has never seen before." "What's that?" Amy asked. Vera's expression was fierce and proud. "We're Vakrian strength with human wisdom. We're warriors who fight to protect, not just for glory. We're a pack that includes more than just our own species." She looked at Amy and Ben. "We're family." Amy pulled all three of them into a hug, something that would have horrified traditional Vakrians. But these three weren't traditional Vakrians anymore. That night, as New Haven repaired its defenses and tended to its wounded, a message was sent to Vakrian space. It was a recording of the battle, captured by security cameras. It showed three young Vakrians fighting alongside humans, using tactics that blended two completely different cultures into something new and effective. The Vakrian elders who eventually saw that recording would be shocked, horrified, and intrigued. Those three cubs had violated nearly every rule of Vakrian society. They had worked with aliens as equals. They had retreated when necessary. They had put the group above personal glory. And they had won. The recording would travel slowly through Vakrian space, passed from ship to ship, clan to clan. And in the dark corners of the Empire, among the warriors who had lost everything to the creche, people began to whisper. Maybe the old ways weren't the only ways. Maybe those cubs raised by humans had discovered something important. Maybe it was time for the Vakrians to learn from the species they had always looked down on. Maybe it was time to adapt or die. The cubs didn't know it yet, but their childhood was ending. Soon they would be called to face their heritage and prove whether their father's desperate gamble had been genius or madness. The message arrived on a cold morning, delivered by a Vakrian courier ship that appeared without warning in New Haven's orbit. The ship broadcast on all frequencies, its message clear and formal. The cubs of Fexal are summoned to the Broken Fangs Assembly. They will answer for their dishonor, or be declared outcast from all Vakrian clans for eternity. Amy read the message 3 times, her hands shaking. Ben stood behind her, his face grim. "They can't go," Amy said. "It's obviously a trap. They'll kill them for being raised by humans." "We don't know that," Ben replied, though his voice was uncertain. "Don't we?" Amy gestured at the screen. "Dishonor? They saved an entire colony. They've done nothing wrong except survive and grow up with us." Vera walked into the room, Kale and Rin behind her. All 3 had heard the message. "We're going," Vera announced. "Absolutely not," Amy said firmly. "I'm your guardian. I won't let you walk into an execution." "You're our mother," Vera corrected, and the word made Amy's eyes water. Vera rarely used it. "But we're adults now by Vakrian law, and we have to face this." "Why?" Rin asked quietly. He looked scared, but determined. "Because if we don't, we'll spend our whole lives running. We'll never know where we belong. Are we Vakrian? Are we human? Are we outcasts from both?" Kale adjusted her toolkit nervously. "Plus, there's a bigger problem. The Kresh are winning. The Vakrian clans are scattered and dying. If we don't try to change things now, there won't be any Vakrians left to reject us." Amy wanted to lock them in their rooms to keep them safe on New Haven forever. But she looked at their faces and saw adults, not cubs. They had grown tall and strong. Vera's military strategies had helped defend 3 colonies now. Kale's engineering innovations had saved countless lives. Rin's leadership training programs had turned ordinary people into effective soldiers. "Then I'm coming with you," Amy said. "Me too," Ben added. "You're not facing this alone." 3 days later, they arrived at the Broken Fangs Nebula. The sight was both beautiful and tragic. Hundreds of Vakrian ships floated in the colorful gas clouds. But these weren't the mighty warships of legend. They were damaged vessels, refugee carriers, and converted cargo haulers. This was all that remained of the once mighty Vakrian Empire. The cubs were brought before the Council of Elders in a massive gathering hall that had been constructed from connected ship modules. Thousands of Vakrians watched from above, their eyes gleaming in the darkness. The air smelled of anger and desperation. Amy and Ben were forced to wait outside, but they could watch through a video link. "Look at them," one elder snarled, pointing at the cubs. "Covered in the stink of humans, standing with human posture, speaking with human softness in their voices. We summoned you here to answer for your crimes," another elder said. This was General Kryn, the oldest warrior present. His fur was white with age, and scars covered his body. "You have abandoned your heritage. You have learned the ways of prey animals. You have dishonored your father's memory." Vera stepped forward. Amy held her breath, praying the girl would control her temper. "My father chose this," Vera said clearly. "His last act was to save us by giving us to humans. He saw what you refused to see." "And what is that?" General Kryn asked, his voice dangerous. "That we're losing," Vera replied. "That our way of fighting is getting us killed. That pride and tradition matter less than survival." Angry roars filled the hall. Several warriors stood, hands on their weapons. But General Kryn raised a hand for silence. "Explain yourself," he commanded. Vera gestured to Kale, who activated a holographic display. Images from the Battle of New Haven filled the air. The assembled Vakrians watched in silence as 3 cubs fought alongside humans, using tactics that violated every rule of traditional combat. "Watch carefully," Vera said. "Count how many enemies we killed. Count how many allies we saved. Then ask yourself if dishonor matters more than victory." The recordings showed Vera retreating to regroup. They showed Kale fighting from cover instead of charging. They showed Rin coordinating with humans as equals. Every action was technically cowardly by Vakrian standards, and every action was effective. The Kresh expect us to fight like Vakrians, Kale added, her voice steady despite her obvious nervousness. They know we'll charge straight at them. They know we'll fight alone instead of in groups. They know we'd rather die with honor than win with tactics. She paused. That's why they're winning. You suggest we abandon everything we are? An elder challenged. No, Rin said quietly, and the hall fell silent. The youngest cub rarely spoke in public, so when he did, people listened. We suggest we become more than we are. Keep our strength, keep our courage, but add human wisdom, add human cooperation, add human innovation. Humans are weak, someone shouted from the crowd. Humans conquered their own world despite being weaker than most predators on it, Rin countered. They have no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. By Vakrian standards, they should have gone extinct. Instead, they thrived. They didn't do it with strength. They did it with thinking. General Kryn leaned forward. You speak well, but words are not proof. The Kresh have taken 17 Vakrian worlds in the last year alone. Our fleets are scattered. Our warriors are defeated. What can you do about this? Vera met his eyes without flinching. Give us a chance to prove it. Give us warriors to train. Let us show you that human methods can work for Vakrians. You want us to trust you? To give you soldiers? The general's laugh was bitter. You are cubs raised by aliens. Then give us the warriors you don't trust, Vera challenged. Give us the dishonored ones, the failures, the ones you've already given up on. Her voice rang through the hall. Give us the broken claws. A shocked silence fell. The broken claws were the lowest of the low in Vakrian society. They were warriors who had failed in battle, retreated when they should have fought, or otherwise lost their honor. They were kept alive but shunned, used for menial labor and treated as examples of what not to be. You want to lead the broken claws? General Kryn seemed genuinely surprised. There are 300 of them, cowards and failures, every one. They're survivors, Kale corrected. They stayed alive when others died. That takes skill, even if it's not the skill we traditionally value. General Kryn sat back, his clawed fingers drumming on his chair. The other elders whispered among themselves. Finally he spoke. Very well. I will give you your chance. His voice carried across the entire hall. You will take command of the broken claws. You will train them in your human ways, and in 6 months you will assault Hevrak Prime. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Hevrak Prime was a Kresh fortress world that controlled a vital hyperspace junction. Every Vakrian attack on it had failed miserably. If you succeed, General Kryn continued, you will be vindicated. Your methods will be accepted. You and your soldiers will have your honor restored. He paused dramatically. If you fail, you will be executed. All of you. Every cub, every broken claw, every human who helps you. Amy's heart nearly stopped. Through the video link, she saw the trap clearly. This wasn't mercy or a fair chance. This was a death sentence with extra steps. Hevrak Prime was impossible to take. The Kresh had held it for 3 years against the best Vakrian forces. But Vera smiled. It was a different expression Amy had seen before. Usually right before the girl did something brilliant and terrifying. We accept, Vera said. The hall erupted in chaos. Some Vakrians cheered, thrilled at the prospect of watching the cubs fail and die. Others argued that this was too harsh. General Kryn simply watched with unreadable eyes. When the cubs emerged from the hall, Amy grabbed Vera. Are you insane? Hevrak Prime has never been taken. You just agreed to commit suicide. No, Vera said calmly. I agreed to do something impossible, using methods that have never been tried before. We need to go back to New Haven. We need volunteers. For what? Ben asked. To build an army, Kale said. excitement in her voice. Not a Vakrian army, not a human army, something new. A legion, Rin added softly. A legion that fights like nothing the galaxy has ever seen before. Amy looked at Ben. He looked back at her. They were both thinking the same thing. This was crazy. This was impossible. This would probably get them all killed. I'm in, Amy said. Me too, Ben agreed. Because that's what family did. They stood together, even when the odds were impossible, especially then. The cubs had been called home to face judgment. Instead, they were about to start a revolution. The broken claws were worse than anyone had expected. Amy stood in the training yard of the makeshift base they'd established on a small moon, watching 300 Vakrian warriors who looked like they'd already died inside. They stood in loose groups, not formations. Their equipment was mismatched and poorly maintained. Worst of all, their eyes held no fire, no pride, no hope. These are the soldiers we're supposed to turn into an elite force? Ben whispered beside her. They look broken. They are broken, Vera replied, walking up behind them. That's why they gave them to us. They expect us to fail. The 47 human volunteers who had come from New Haven and other colonies stood nervously to one side. They were veterans, engineers, medics, and tactical experts. Every one had volunteered, knowing they might die for trying to help. Kale examined the weapons the broken claws had been issued. Some of them don't even work properly. They literally gave us garbage, said Rin firmly. Then we'll make do with garbage, Rin added. We've done more with less. Vera stepped forward to address the assembled Vakrians. I am Vera, daughter of Fexal. These are my siblings, Kale and Rin. We're going to train you to take Hevrak Prime. Laughter rippled through the group. It was bitter, mocking laughter. We've already tried to take Hevrak Prime, one large Vakrian called out. That's why we're here. We failed and survived. The only thing more shameful than dying in battle is living after you lose. What's your name? Vera asked. Kyle, the warrior replied. I was a ship captain until I ordered a retreat to save my crew. Now I'm nothing. You saved lives, Rin pointed out. That makes you a leader, not a failure. It makes me a coward by our laws, Kyle shot back. Cubs raised by humans, pretending to be warriors. Vera moved faster than most humans could follow. She was in front of Kyle in an instant, her claws at his throat. The broken claws tensed, but none of them moved to help him. They didn't care enough. I could kill you right now, Vera said quietly. Would that prove I'm a warrior? Would that make me honorable? She stepped back. No, it would just make you dead, and me no closer to taking Hevrak Prime. So what do you want from us? Another Vakrian asked. Her name was Lisa, and she'd lost her entire squad on a failed mission. I want you to fight, Vera said. Not like Vakrians have always fought. I want you to fight like you want to win, like you want to live, like you want to matter again. We don't matter, someone muttered. We're the broken claws. We're just waiting to die. Kale stepped forward with her tablet. Look at this. She projected a hologram of Hevrak Prime. Every assault on this fortress has followed the same pattern. Vakrian ships jump in, challenge the enemy to honorable combat, and charge the defenses. The Kresh wait behind their shields and guns and kill everything that comes at them. It works every single time, because we keep doing the same thing. What would you have us do differently? Kyle asked, genuinely curious now. Everything, Kale replied. We're going to study the fortress, learn its weak points, plan our approach, use deception, attack from unexpected angles, work together as a unit instead of individual warriors. That's not how Vakrians fight, Lisa protested. That's how winning armies fight, Ben interjected, speaking up for the first time. I'm human. I'm not a warrior by your standards. But my species conquered our entire planet by fighting smart, not strong. The broken claws looked at the humans with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. "You want us to fight like humans?" Kyle asked. "We want you to fight like something new," Vera said. "Like warriors who use their brains as much as their claws. Like a force the Kresh have never seen before." The first week was a disaster. The broken claws refused to follow orders. They mocked the human volunteers. They fought among themselves constantly. They saw the training exercises as insults to their heritage. Amy found Vera sitting alone one night, staring at her father's old combat knife. "They won't listen," Vera said quietly. "They don't believe we can do this. Maybe they're right." "Your father believed in you," Amy reminded her. "He knew you could become something special." "He also knew I'd have help," Vera replied, looking up at Amy. "Mom, I don't know if I can do this." Amy sat down beside her adopted daughter. "Then don't do it alone. That's the whole point, isn't it? Vakrians fail because they try to be individual heroes. Humans succeed because we work together." Vera was quiet for a moment. Then she stood up. "You're right. I've been trying to lead like a Vakrian commander. I need to lead like a human one." The next day, Vera made an announcement to the entire group. "We're changing the training structure. No more Vakrians and humans training separately. From now on, we work in mixed teams. Humans and Vakrians together, learning from each other." "I won't take orders from prey animals," Kyle growled. "Then you'll die on Hevrak Prime," Vera said bluntly. "Your choice. Stay here and be useless, or join us and become part of something that might actually work." Slowly, reluctantly, some of the broken claws began to participate. Ben taught them how to use cover and concealment instead of charging into open fire. Human combat medics showed them that keeping soldiers alive was just as important as killing enemies. Engineers like Kale demonstrated how modified weapons and equipment could multiply their effectiveness. The breakthrough came during a training exercise. Lisa's squad was pinned down by simulated enemy fire. By Vakrian tradition, she should have charged and died gloriously. Instead, she did something different. "Kyle, suppressing fire on my mark," she shouted. "Human squad, flank left. We push on 3. The coordinated assault worked perfectly. The enemy position was overrun, with minimal casualties. "That felt good," Lisa said afterward, surprise in her voice. "That felt like we were actually soldiers, instead of just targets." From that moment, things began to change. The broken claws started to believe. They began maintaining their equipment, training seriously, and working with the humans as equals. They were becoming a real unit. Rin organized them into mixed squads, where Vakrian strength complemented human tactics. Each squad had both species working together, covering each other's weaknesses. Kale created new weapons and armor that combined Vakrian technology with human innovation. Rifles that could switch between precise shots and overwhelming firepower. Armor that was both protective and allowed for tactical flexibility. Ben taught them battlefield engineering, showing them how to turn any environment into an advantage. The Vakrians, who had always disdained anything that wasn't direct combat, started to see the value in preparation and planning. Amy worked with the medics, teaching them that saving wounded warriors meant they could fight again. The Vakrian tradition of letting the injured die with honor was slowly replaced with the human philosophy of never leaving anyone behind. After 3 months, General Kryn arrived for an inspection. He expected to find chaos and failure. Instead, he found something that shocked him. The broken claws moved like a real military unit. They responded to orders instantly. They worked together seamlessly. When he watched them run assault drills, he saw Vakrian ferocity combined with human coordination in ways that should have been impossible. "What have you done to them?" Kryn asked Vera. "We gave them hope," Vera replied, "and we gave them a reason to fight beyond just dying with honor." "Show me more," Kryn demanded. For the next hour, the Legion demonstrated their capabilities. They showed combined arms tactics, where infantry, armor, and support units worked together. They demonstrated how they could adapt to changing battlefield conditions. They executed complex maneuvers that required trust and communication. When it was over, General Kryn was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "This is not how Vakrians fight." "No, sir," Vera agreed. "This is how winners fight." "The other elders will hate this," Kryn said. Then he smiled, showing all his teeth. "Good. They need to see that their precious traditions are killing us." He turned to leave, then paused. "You have 3 more months until Hevrak Prime. Make them count. The galaxy is watching." The final months of training were intense. The Legion learned to fight as one organism, each part supporting the others. They practiced until the tactics became instinct. They bonded until the idea of leaving a comrade behind became unthinkable, regardless of species. The night before they left for Hevrak Prime, Amy gathered the cubs one last time. "I'm so proud of you," she said, hugging all 3 of them. "Your father would be amazed." "We couldn't have done this without you," Rin said. "Without humans showing us a better way." "No," Ben corrected. "You did this by combining the best of both peoples. That's what makes you special." Vera looked at her assembled legion. 300 former failures, and 47 humans who believed in them. Against an impossible target, with the entire Vakrian species watching to see if they'd succeed or die. "Tomorrow," she said to her siblings, "we show them what's possible." Kale grinned. "Tomorrow, we change everything." Rin simply nodded, his eyes shining with determination. The Legion was ready. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for them. Hevrak Prime loomed on the view screen like a dark jewel. The fortress world was covered in defensive installations, shield generators, and gun emplacements. 3 years of Vakrian assaults had failed to even scratch its defenses. The Kresh had turned it into the perfect killing ground. Vera stood on the bridge of their command ship, looking at the tactical display. Around her, the Legion prepared for battle. Every soldier knew this was probably a suicide mission. The difference was that now, they believed they had a chance. "All units report ready," Kyle announced from his station. The former disgraced captain had become the Legion's best tactical coordinator. "Reconnaissance drones are in position," Kale added. Unlike previous Vakrian assaults, they had spent 2 weeks studying Hevrak Prime from a distance, mapping every defense, analyzing every patrol pattern. "Assault teams are standing by," Lisa reported. She commanded the shock troops. Mixed squads of Vakrians and humans who would lead the initial breach. Rin looked up from his communications console. "General Kryn is watching. So are the elders. So is half the Vakrian fleet." He paused. No pressure. Vera allowed herself a small smile. "Ben, are your engineers ready?" "Ready as we'll ever be," Ben replied from engineering. He had 40 technicians, both human and Vakrian, prepared to support the assault in ways the Kresh would never expect. "Then let's show them how it's done," Vera said. "All units, execute Phase 1. The assault on Hevrak Prime began nothing like a traditional Vakrian attack. There was no glorious charge, no broadcast challenging the enemy to honorable combat. Instead, the Legion's ships approached from multiple vectors, using asteroids and debris fields for cover. The Kresh defenders were confused. This wasn't how Vakrians fought. Where was the predictable pattern they had learned to exploit? "They're trying to figure out what we're doing," Kale observed, watching the enemy response. "Their ships are repositioning, but they're hesitant." "Good," Vera said. "Uncertainty is a weapon. Rin, deploy the decoys." Dozens of small drones, each broadcasting signatures that mimicked full warships, scattered across the battlefield. The Kresh sensors suddenly showed what looked like a massive fleet attacking from every direction. They're scrambling their fighters, Kyle reported, trying to respond to all the threats. Now, Vera ordered. Lisa, take your teams in. The real assault began with precise surgical strikes. Drop pods fell toward specific weak points that the reconnaissance had identified. These weren't random landings. Each pod was aimed at a shield generator, a sensor array, or a communication hub. The Kresh rushed to defend these positions. And that's when they realized they weren't fighting normal Vakrians. Lisa's team hit the first shield generator with textbook precision. Vakrian warriors provided overwhelming firepower, while human engineers used specialized equipment to disable the generator's power systems. They were in and out in 4 minutes, destroying a target that should have taken hours to assault. Generator 1 down, Lisa reported. Moving to secondary objective. Across the battlefield, other teams executed similar strikes. The Kresh defenders found themselves facing an enemy that refused to behave predictably. Vakrians using cover and suppressing fire. Humans fighting alongside aliens as equals. Coordinated assaults that adapted to changing conditions in real time. They're trying to concentrate their forces, Kyle observed, pulling troops from the southern hemisphere to reinforce the primary defensive line. Then we hit the south, Vera decided immediately. Redirect teams 7 through 12. Ben, can your engineers breach the southern fortress wall? Give me 10 minutes and some covering fire, Ben replied. What followed was a masterclass in combined arms warfare. Vakrian shock troops kept the Kresh forces pinned down, while human engineers literally cut through fortress walls using modified industrial equipment. When the breach opened, mixed squads poured through, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. The Kresh had never fought an enemy like this. Their intelligence said Vakrians were predictable, honor-bound, and fought as individuals. This legion fought like a single organism, each part supporting the others. When they expected a charge, they got flanking maneuvers. When they prepared for individual combat, they faced coordinated fire teams. We've penetrated the outer defenses, Rin reported. Casualties are at 11%. Much lower than projected. Because we're not throwing ourselves at their guns, Vera replied. We're making them come to us, fighting on our terms. The battle raged for 18 hours. The Kresh commanders kept expecting the assault to break, for the Vakrians to revert to their traditional tactics. It never happened. Every time the defenders thought they understood the Legion's strategy, it changed. Amy fought alongside a mixed squad in the fortress interior. A young Vakrian warrior named Paul took a hit meant for her, his armor absorbing the blast. Stay down, Amy ordered, her medical training kicking in. You're injured. Not leaving you, Paul growled, forcing himself back up. Your pack stays together. That word, pack, had become the Legion's identity. Not squad, not unit, pack. A Vakrian concept that had expanded to include humans. Family that fought together and died together if necessary. The breakthrough came when Kale's team reached the fortress's central command hub. Instead of destroying it, they did something that horrified traditional Vakrians. They captured it intact. We control their communications now, Kale reported with satisfaction. I'm broadcasting false orders to their remaining units. That's not honorable combat, one of the older Vakrian warriors protested. Neither is winning, Kale replied. Pick one. The Kresh defense collapsed, not from being overwhelmed, but from confusion. Their forces received contradictory orders. Units retreated when they should have advanced. Reinforcements went to the wrong locations. The humans had taught the Legion that sometimes defeating the enemy's mind was more effective than defeating their body. When the Kresh commander finally surrendered, General Kryn's face appeared on every view screen across the battlefield. The fortress is yours, he said simply. 3 years we tried to take Hevrak Prime. You did it in 1 day. Vera stood in the captured command center, surrounded by her exhausted but triumphant legion. Vakrians and humans stood together, many of them supporting wounded comrades. "We did it together," Vera said, "not just to Kryn, but to everyone watching. That's the only reason we won." The celebration was brief. The Legion had proven their point, but Vera knew this was just the beginning. 3 days later, they returned to the Broken Fangs assembly. The same elders who had sent them to die now faced them in the Great Hall. But this time, the cubs walked in as conquerors, and the hall was packed with Vakrians who had watched the battle recordings. General Kryn stood before the assembled elders. "The cubs have succeeded where our greatest warriors failed. They took Hevrak Prime, with acceptable casualties and minimum loss of equipment. More importantly, they proved that adaptation is not weakness." "They violated every tradition of Vakrian combat," one elder protested weakly. "Our traditions are killing us," another elder countered. This was someone new, someone who had lost family to the creche. "My son died following those traditions. These cubs lived by breaking them. Which is more important, pride or survival?" Debate erupted across the hall. Vera let it continue for several minutes, then stepped forward. The hall fell silent. "We don't ask you to abandon being Vakrian," she said clearly. "We ask you to become more than you were. Keep your strength, keep your courage, keep your honor. But add wisdom, add cooperation, add the willingness to learn from others." "You want us to become like humans?" someone challenged. "I want us to become something the galaxy has never seen," Vera replied. "A force that combines the best of every species. Vakrian strength, human tactics, unity across differences." She paused. "The creche are still out there. They're still destroying worlds. They'll come for all of us eventually. We can die alone following traditions, or we can live together by adapting." Rin stepped forward. "We propose the creation of a new force, the Covenant Legion, open to any species willing to fight the creche. Humans will provide tactical training and engineering. Vakrians will provide warriors and leadership. Others will contribute what they can." "A mixed-species military force?" An elder looked scandalized. "Commanded by cubs raised by aliens?" "Commanded by proven warriors," General Kryn corrected firmly. "These cubs have earned their place. They've earned all our respect." Kale activated a holographic display. "We already have volunteers. 17 species have contacted us after watching the battle recordings. They want to learn our methods. They want to join the fight." The vote took 3 hours. In the end, it wasn't unanimous. Many elders refused to accept the changes, but enough voted yes to make it official. The Covenant Legion was born. Over the following months, the Legion grew. What had started as 300 dishonored Vakrians and 47 humans expanded to thousands. New Haven became a major training center. Mixed-species units trained together, learning to combine their unique abilities into something greater than the sum of their parts. The Creche Dominion, which had been steadily expanding for years, suddenly faced an enemy they couldn't predict or easily defeat. Every battle against the Covenant Legion was different. Every tactic they prepared for was countered by something unexpected. Amy stood with Ben watching a training exercise where Vakrian warriors worked seamlessly with human tacticians, insectoid engineers, and aquatic support specialists. "Thexal would be proud," Ben said quietly. "He knew," Amy replied. "He knew that his cubs could bridge the gap between species. He just had to trust humans to raise them right." Vera approached, now wearing the insignia of a Covenant commander. At 21 she was young by any species standards, but she had proven herself in ways that couldn't be denied. "Mom, Dad," she said, and those words still made Amy's heart warm. "We received a transmission. The Creche are massing a major fleet. They're planning a strike against the Vakrian core colonies." "How big?" Ben asked. "Massive," Vera replied. "They want to end the Vakrian species once and for all." "Then we'll stop them," Amy said firmly. "That's what the Legion is for." Vera smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." Both of you are coming with us. You're part of the pack. The battle that followed would become legend. The Covenant Legion met the Kresh Armada in the Crimson Nebula, and what happened there changed galactic warfare forever. But that's a story for another time. What mattered now was that 3 scared cubs, left in human care by a desperate father, had grown into leaders of a force that united species across the galaxy. They had proven that strength came not from tradition or purity, but from the willingness to learn, adapt, and fight together. The Alpha had left his cubs in human care, trusting a species his people had always looked down on. Those cubs returned leading a legion that combined the best of every species that joined it. A legion that couldn't be challenged because it refused to fight the way anyone expected. And at its heart were 3 young Vakrians, who were raised with human love, human wisdom, and human belief that family was more than blood. It was choice, it was loyalty, it was standing together when the whole galaxy said it was impossible. They had become exactly what their father had hoped for. Something new, something better. Something that gave hope to a dying galaxy.